Hey, 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 everyone. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. Jacqueline J here. Welcome to today's Facebook Live. If you are watching the replay, please go ahead and type replay in the comments so I can come back and connect with you later. And if you're here live, again, welcome. And let me know where it is that you're tuning in from. And we're going to go ahead and get started. So today, if you were with me a couple of days ago, I talked about doing the difficult. And in our community, one of the difficult things that we don't talk about is wills and trusts and preparing for those eventualities of what comes as part of the next part of life. So today, we're talking about this very important topic. And it's something that can make all the difference in the world to your loved ones after you're gone. And I know we don't like to think about it. I know it's not a comfortable subject to talk about. I know it's a difficult subject to talk about, but we need to have those conversations because so often our family members are left to try to figure things out on our own. And some of those things may not necessarily be your wishes or things that you would have wanted to happen. So again, just being prepared. And the Bible tells us that a wise man prepares and is prepared for things that are to come. So if you've ever wondered about what the difference is between a will and a trust, or which one you should have for you and your family, stick around for a little bit and I'm going to break it all down for you again in very basic and simple terms. We can get a little in-depth later, but this is just an overview of what wills and trusts are so that you have a general idea and understanding as you're going out and doing your investigations, etc., and preparing to prepare these documents again for your family to have in case they're needed. So again, before we dive in, Jacqueline J. Smith here. I go by Jacqueline J. And my mission is to help women and especially grieving moms protect their legacies, to secure those finances and create a future that honors their children in a way that is meaningful for them. And part of that is making sure that your family is taken care of financially. And that's where estate planning comes in. And again, part of that is dealing with wills and trusts. Now, the information that I'm about to provide is for informational and educational purposes only and should not be construed as legal or any type of professional advice that requires any type of licensing and things of that nature. Because, well, part of that is I'm not licensed. This is personal experience. And also the regulations, the laws vary from state to state, jurisdiction to jurisdiction. So again, general information, general education. And things change so quickly. If you've been paying attention to the news at all recently, you know things can change at the drop of a dime. So regulations and laws again do vary and do change regularly. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, again, I know this is not the most fun topic, but it is extremely important. Now, when we don't plan for the future, we leave like I said, leave our families vulnerable to any number of not only financial situations, but also legal situations as well. I've seen too many people lose bank accounts, lose their homes, lose any number of their assets, and also again wind up in long legal battles just because they didn't have some of these basic items taken care of. And we don't want that for our families. We want to make sure that in what is already a stressful time, that there are some things that they just don't need to worry about or need to be concerned about in that particular time. So again, we're going to talk about what a will is, what a trust is, the key differences between a will and a trust, and how do you decide which one is best for you and your family and your situation. So if you're finding this valuable already, please share it out. Please share it out to anyone that may need to have this information, anyone that needs this information. if you're finding it valuable. So I appreciate that. Again, go ahead and hit that share button. Okay, so let's jump right in. Let's start with a will. A will is a legal document that spells out exactly what you want to happen to your assets in the event you pass away or after you pass away. And again, the key here is kind of after you pass away. So a will outlines who gets what, who gets your assets like your home, your money, bank accounts, etc., your personal items, clothing, dishes, knickknacks, like that. And also a will specify how you want or who you want to care for or be guardian of any minor children that you may have that need to be taken care of. Again, unfortunately, in the event that something should happen to you. And also, who will be responsible for making sure that your wishes are carried out? Who will be responsible for ensuring that what the items that are outlined in your will actually take place, and be that responsible person to ensure that happens and to make sure that happens. And it sounds simple, right? I mean, it sounds very straightforward and things of that nature, but there's a catch. So a will has to go through what is called probate. And if you're not familiar with probate, you may be asking, what is probate? Probate is a legal process. It's the legal process where a court actually makes sure that not only that your will is valid, but also distributes the assets and those items that you have identified in your will. Now, unfortunately, this particular process can take months, sometimes years, and it can be quite lengthy. Not only quite lengthy, but it can also be quite expensive. Probate is a public process, which means that the public will know what assets you have or what assets you have that are being distributed. So it's public knowledge, and anyone can see what you had and who you left it to. Now, if you have a will and nothing else, your family may have to wait a long time and deal with the court before they receive anything, but also they may incur additional expenses with regard to having your will probated or having your will be in probate. So there's also another entity, if you will, that's called a trust. So what is a trust? A trust is a legal arrangement. It's not a document. It's an arrangement that holds your assets while you're still living, and you have the option to, or you are in charge of those assets while you're still living, and then the trust transfers those assets to your beneficiaries when you pass away without going through probate. So no court involvement. So courts are not involved in trusts. A trust is an arrangement. Court's not involved. You put your assets in the trust. Trust immediately passes on to your heirs or to those that you designate following your passing. So there are different types of trusts. There are a number of different types of trusts. So again, one type, there's again, as with many other things, it's not a one-size-fits-all proposition. There are many types of trusts. However, the most common type of trust is a revocable living trust, and it generally works like this. Again, you create the trust, transferring all of the ownership of your assets and property and belongings, if you will, into the trust, like your house, again, your bank accounts, etc. You are the trustee, so you control everything while you're still alive. You still have control over your home, your bank accounts, your automobiles, whatever it is that you have designated that's going into the trust. And then you name what's called a successor trustee in the event that you pass. That successor trustee would then be responsible for the items that are in the trust. And they take over they would take over the process after you would pass away. Now, your assets, again, go directly to whomever you designate they are going to, again, without court involvement. So it's a seamless process. It's a more, let's put it this way, it's a more seamless process than a will. So no costly court delays. It saves your family time and money in terms of the overall what needs to take place, processing. Also, a trust is private, so it's not public like a will. So a trust is private, so no one except your beneficiaries or those individuals that you identify to receive this this property or these assets knows what's in it. So again, very private. You never become unable to manage your finances if you ever if you ever find yourself in a situation where you're unable to manage your finances due to illness or incapacitation, things of that nature, your successor trustee can also manage those assets. So again, without court involvement. So you don't have to go to court to get someone to oversee your affairs and things of that nature, because all of that information is contained in the trust. Huge benefit for your family, again, not having to go through those hurdles and jumps and hoops and things of that nature in those eventualities. So let's recap what we talked about with regard to a will. A will goes through probate. A will becomes public record. And a will only goes into effect after you pass away. Now, it is good for identifying, again, guardianship of any minor children that you may care for. On the other hand, a trust avoids probate altogether. It stays private. It not only works while you're alive, but also after you pass by designating or naming that successor trustee. And it also helps you manage your assets in the event that you should become disabled or incapacitated. Now, which of those two would work best for your situation? Honestly, ideally both, especially if you do have young children. You will want to make sure that a will is in place to name any guardians for any minor children that you may be caring for. But a trust gives you more control, not only while you're living, but after you pass away, and it saves your family time and money. Now, we've discussed those key differences between a will and a trust. What would be the next step? What should be your next step? So I recommend, if you don't have anything in place, start somewhere. So at least start with a will. At least start putting your wishes down on paper so that whoever you end up having as your executor or person that will be over your will, or the executor of your estate, basically, they at least have some guidance, some guidelines in terms of what your wishes are. And you don't leave folks guessing. If you have other assets like a home, savings, investments, you might want to consider setting up a trust to protect all of those assets. Talk to an estate planning attorney or a financial professional. I can certainly connect you with resources that can help you in this particular area. And the other thing is, don't wait. Don't put it off any longer. Tomorrow is not promised. And again, I'm speaking from experience. Who would have even thought in their wildest imagination to have a will for a 22-year-old? Again, outside of my realm of comprehension and thought process, nothing I would have even thought about. However, had at least a will been in place, the process would have been less challenging than it ended up being. So that's what I'll say. Again, don't wait. And so if this has been helpful for you, please drop a something, an emoji in the comments, and let me know. Let me know if you'd like to hear more of these types of videos, more of these types of conversations. I'd love to have a conversation with you. If that's where you find yourself, if you're finding yourself that you're needing one of these items, or even thinking about one of these items, or things of that nature, like I said, can definitely provide some resources for you in order to assist with that. And again, before we wrap up here, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments, and I'll be more than happy to answer them for you. And if you're interested in learning about financial planning and estates and wills and, some of the documents and things of that nature that are needed for this particular season, just follow me and turn on notifications when I will come back and have some more of this content for you in order to assist you in these particular areas. So again, I thank you so very much for taking the time to share with me this afternoon. And remember, taking action. It's all about taking action. Taking action is key. And like I said, I'm in the season of doing the difficult, mastering the difficult. And yes, these conversations are difficult. Yes, again, not one of my top 10 favorite activities, but here I am. And why? Because it is so important. It is so important to protect our families. It is so important that we have these things in place. And it's so important because our community is not used to having these conversations and doesn't have these conversations on a regular basis. And I'm trying to tell you, GoFundMe is not an answer. GoFundMe is not a replacement for a will, a trust, life insurance, any of those things. So you need to have the proper documentation, the proper preparation, so that, like I said, your family can move forward with more ease. Not that the situation would be easy by any stretch of the imagination, but more ease, and less that they actually have to worry about during that time and during that season. So, like I said, thank you so very much for joining me again today, Jacqueline J, and we will look forward to seeing you next time. Take care. Bye now.